This episode was filmed on the Paramount People's Country and Jara Country. Tyson came to his DIY tiny house build with no experience. I think he said that he built a computer desk and a coffee table out of wood, and that was it. He graduated from university doing a teaching degree, so completely separate from building. No trades background, and incredibly and heroically, in my mind, toiled away at this tiny house building and actually did it 95% just himself on his own. It's impressive. He's really gone for an incredible aesthetic. You'll see the lime wash interior that he's built, and he's just worked so hard to give a really refined finish. It's an absolute feat in my mind of what he's managed to achieve alone. He's in South Australia, and he does reveal to me, so you hear me hearing for the first time, that there's some pretty hostile news from the state government of South Australia. So stick around, particularly if you're in South Australia, definitely listen to this episode because it talks about some of the stuff that's going to be relevant for your tiny house journey if you're in a tiny house on wheels in South Australia. Candid Tiny House is a podcast and a video where I get to go back to our past clients, people who've bought a trailer from us and taken a course on how to build a tiny house on wheels in Australia. And they've gone ahead and built their tiny house. And then we get to have an honest, deep, reflective conversation about what it's really like to build a tiny house so that you can learn from their reflections, their mistakes, their wisdom, all of their rich and varied experiences for building a tiny house on wheels in Australia. So grab your notebook and a cup of tea because we're sharing real stories of what it's like to build a tiny house in Australia. Thanks so much, Tyson, for joining us to talk about your tiny house build today. It's a real find myself really excited to talk to you about your house because it's a beautiful house and a big achievement.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I'm keen to be here, keen to talk about it and hopefully help some other people with their DIYs as well.
Yeah, great. Do you want to tell me from the beginning, what had you think about tiny houses on wheels as a thing that might work for you?
Um, I think I started initially like years and years ago wanting to do like van life when that was sort of kicking off as a big thing. But I was like 18, 19 at the time, didn't have a lot of money, that sort of thing. And the vans I could buy at the time were pretty run down, and I knew they probably wouldn't last very long. So it started with considering like full-time van living. And then when I came across, must be a YouTube video or something like that of tiny houses, like when I'd already sort of mentally prepared to live in a van, like such a small space, to then seeing tiny houses, like, oh, that feels like huge compared to a van. And I can still have a shower, I can still have all the sort of, nice amenities, the cushy amenities of a house. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And like that doesn't seem too hard to build one. So then it was sort of like a dream for years. Like while I studied at uni, and throughout uni, it was sort of like, okay, no, I think I actually want to do this when I finish. So then yeah, kind of like saved up throughout uni, and then like getting to my last year, is when I sort of pulled the trigger and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And that's when I bought the trailer from you guys and sort of went from there.
Wow, good on you. And to save money at uni, I felt like there was a choice between eating and studying. It was really hard for me to earn or save whilst I was at uni. So good on you. That's a feat in itself.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be living at home throughout uni, so that did definitely help. But yeah, just setting aside the money I earned, so I was pretty, I guess, frugal with how I was living, and just all my money was trying to just save for the tiny house. But yeah, lucky enough to live at home. So
Yeah,
yeah,
good on you. Nice one. Thanks, Peas. So what year was it when you bought the trailer?
bought the trailer. That had been, was that 2022? I guess, yeah, 3 years ago now. For 2022, I think about July is when I bought the trailer from you guys, and
Mhm.
or I paid the deposit or whatnot. But that was the year that had a bunch of flooding over your way. So I tried to pick it up like one time and there was like the roads were all washed out, like had a weekend lined up and the roads were all washed out. So then I had to delay it another month and that sort of thing. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, it teed up all right with uni and everything. But yeah, sort of did the deposit on the trailer and then over those few months is when I was doing all like the 3D drawings and that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
So then that gave me time to do all the planning of the framing and whatnot. So it worked out really well, actually.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And what DIY experience did you have before you started building your tiny house?
Uh, I'd done some very small things, like made like a pot handle for like a pot on the stove, and I'd made a couple of like a coffee table and a like a computer table sort of thing, but they were very basic, just like a slab of wood and some legs on it, really. Um, yeah, pretty much next to none. It was all sort of like, all right, how hard can it be? I'll watch some YouTube, Google a bunch.
I'm glad you were that confident because you've really cut your teeth, I suppose, on this house, and it's
Yeah.
really come off well for you. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely harder than I thought it would be. I think it was a bit of naivety or whatnot. But yeah, I think just some like I guess doggedness or whatnot. Sort of just when things got hard, just take a moment and just keep chipping away at it till you figure it out. Um,
Yeah, good on you.
yeah.
Yeah. So at some point, I imagine, I think you said that you took one of our courses, didn't you? Did you attend to a weekend workshop in person, or did you?
No, I did your online course. And that was yeah, that was actually a really good way of just getting my head around the basics of it. Like, so I'm going with no experience. So it's just like, all right, what does a stud actually mean? And what's this? What's that? And like, so your course sort of work right through that, like over, one day or a weekend or something like that, just the online course.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of just like really useful just starting information as like, the starting point to then build off of. It's okay, now I have a rough idea. Now I need to work out how exactly I want to do it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, yeah, did your online course and yeah, that was awesome. So big help at the start. And I think that's
Excellent.
actually why I originally got my trailer through you guys because I saw you had the online course. I think I did it first before um, like going for the trailer. Because yeah, it was really useful.
Yeah, great. Good to hear. And then did you have people helping you? Like, did you have a stable of tools or a person nearby that could help you orientate to this huge task?
Um, well, I was lucky enough to build it in my parents' driveway. So it's just sort of plonked in their driveway, in front of their shed. My dad had some tools, but not like didn't have a nail gun, didn't have staple gun, all those sorts of things. So most of the tools I had to buy for the build. Um,
Mhm.
and then in terms of help, I had friends come in helping a fair bit. As you know, there's a lot of two people tasks on a tiny house, like trying to put a wall up or like something like that. So I had a fair bit of help from friends along the way. Um, and I've got a cousin who helped a bit with the plumbing. And like an electrician came and checked the work I did after I did it because I just wanted to make sure that was all done right. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, for the most part, it was just me in the house, and I really enjoyed that because it felt like yeah, very much like a solo project. So every bit along the way, like I've done, 95% of it. So
Mm.
yeah.
There's a huge sense of satisfaction and accomplishment with that, isn't there? If you just can see all the effort that you put in. And yeah, so how did you come up with the size of the trailer that you wanted? And how did you refine your design so that you knew that it was going to work for you, for a medium term period or a long term period?
Um, I think that probably changed though, because I've been considering it for so many years, and I remember over those years, I did some like drawings just on a piece of paper and stuff, and like tried out some different layouts and whatnot. I think in my head, I started with a smaller size because I was like, okay, maybe like a 5 or a 6 meter. keep it a bit smaller, like one loft, that sort of thing. And then when it got sort of closer to starting the build and having to finalize the trailer size, I was sort of like, oh, I could go smaller, but then in my mind, I wouldn't be in it for quite as long. Like, with hopes of having a family and that sort of thing, being too small would sort of mean that you're very limited how long you could stay in quite a small, tiny house. So then I was like, oh, well, if I'm doing it and I'm trying to do it for the long term, may as well just go a little bit bigger, and have the sort of two lofts and a bit more living space and that sort of thing. So then sort of looking around, it seemed like I've ended up with an 8 meter trailer. So it seemed like 8 meters was sort of becoming the sort of standard for a tiny house trailer, like 7.2 to 8. I think, all right, well, I'll go the 8 meter. Much longer than that, it's going to make it pretty hard to get on the road and keep underweight and whatnot. But 8 meter seemed like it was pretty doable to keep under the 4.5 ton and still give me plenty of space. So yeah, I think that was probably the main reason.
Mm. And how do you feel like it's thrashing out now that you're living in it?
I'm really happy with the choice in size. Like it feels really spacious. I'm not sure if it's because I've done really light colored walls and I've tried to not enclose things too much, but yeah, it's way more than enough space for just me. So,
That's
yeah,
great. And I think you're right. Like, there's a lot more longevity in an 8 meter trailer than a 5 or 6 meter trailer. We grew out of this one. This one's only 5.4 meters long, as you know, because you stayed in it.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, like after we had one baby, like by the time we were up to two babies,
yeah,
it was time to move out of it because it was really hard to get all of our stuff in it. With a kid, there's
yeah.
just so much extra stuff. So yeah, I think you're right. Even with two adults, you have to pare back a lot to fit everything in.
Yeah, that's why I remember staying in yours that it was perfect for like one or two people. And then yeah, the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think I made the right decision here. That like a bit longer, so I've got that yeah, that longevity as you say.
Yeah. How long did it take you to build the house?
Um well, initially I thought it was gonna be 6 months. Um initially I thought I was gonna be starting in November and finishing before winter that year. So that would have been like 2022 over to 2023. And now I'm what, 3 years after ordering the trailer, so 2.5 years of building. Um, yeah. So when I moved in, it was probably 2.25 years, something like that, of building in the time I had. So much longer than my initial sort of hope, but you don't know what you don't know. And I realized very quickly after starting that I was not going to be finished in 6 months. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
Also for costs too, like I didn't have all the money I needed saved.
Mm.
I probably only had about half. So then that's the other thing is I was hoping to do it for I think 60 to 65 thousand, including the trailer. And now it's ended up being I think 90, not including the off grid. So it ended up being a fair bit more than I expected. So it
Yeah.
just meant that I had to wait for money to come in before ordering material to get started on the next step, which is fine. It sort of did give me time to plan sort of each step.
Mm.
So it worked out well in the end. But yeah, so about a bit over 2 years, like closer to 2.5 of building. And then now there's still some small jobs and stuff to do, like just bits and pieces I haven't finished and sort of, yeah, not feeling super rushed to do that, just enjoying a bit of a break at the moment.
Good on you. Yeah, well
Yeah.
deserved. So so tell me how you've structured your week because like I guess in the first little while you finished uni, or
Mhm.
were you still studying in that first year of building?
No, I'm finished. I like finished in November, and then pretty much as soon as I finished uni, then I got started building. Um, but for work, I coach gymnastics. So
Okay.
that's a sort of an evening job. So coaching is after school hours. So it would be 3:30 onwards on weekdays, and then sort of like an all day Saturday.
Hmm.
Um, so that gave me during the days until about, well, the other thing is I work in Adelaide and I built the house in Middleton, which is about an hour south of Adelaide. So
Oh,
I was commuting back and forth to get down there to work on the house. So I would sort of, most of my weekdays I would spend in Middleton, wake up, work on the house for a few hours, eat lunch, drive back to Adelaide, do my work, drive back to Middleton at night, sleep, and then repeat.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
and then I had all day Sunday normally to work on it as well. So that's when I would get friends to come and help. So there were definitely times where it was only two people jobs that I had to do. And then I would just have to wait for a Sunday and then wrangle some friends to come and help. So that definitely slowed the whole process down a lot as well, because there's, plenty of jobs that are quicker with two people, but then there's also plenty of jobs that you just can't do with one person, like
Yes.
big long sheets of cladding and things like that, that you just need help with. So
And it's tricky because you don't have like a couple of days chunk. Like you don't have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday where you could possibly get two people and really expedite, like,
yeah,
really finish something off.
yeah, exactly. So I did find that tough, and it probably contributed a bit at times to maybe burnout or being a bit, I don't know, not demotivated, but maybe hopeless. At times it's like, oh, I'm so slow with this progress. Like I just want to like get cracking on it. Um, but yeah, so then when I had long weekends, or so I'd have, maybe a week off of coaching at certain points, then I could have a week or, a weekend
Mm.
at least to just like smash it out. So that was always nice, having a bit of a boost in productivity during those times.
Yeah. It sounds like you were working on the tiny house or in your job all the time. Did you
Yeah.
get away at all to help yourself sustain the momentum or just work
No.
solidly for 2.5 years?
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I definitely got burnt out at times, and I would just get to the point and then I would just leave the house for a couple of weeks, just trying to recover a little bit. Um, but I would still be working at that time. So for the most part, it was just, yeah, just work, building, work, building, work, building. Hence why
Wow.
I've been moved in, and I'm just like, I'll keep doing the work, but I'm gonna enjoy a bit of free time at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll settle in for months too, that feeling of not having 2 projects on all the time, like work and the other work. It's just such a mammoth thing to get through, to
Yeah,
have any point of finish. It's like, yes. Have you had
definitely.
a party or anything like that? Have you had a housewarming?
Not yet. I was sort of delaying a housewarming until I built a deck. And then now I was planning on starting the deck in a couple of weeks actually, or probably this week. But then with council coming knocking, it's probably not a good idea to start a deck when the council are still trying to figure out what they're going to do with me.
Yeah,
So
sorry about that. What's happened with council already?
Um, so I'm on a property. So we've got landlords. It's like a 10-acre property that's an almond and olive orchard. That's sort of surrounded by some vineyards. So the landlords are living on the property down the bottom in a little house. There's me and my DIY tiny, and there's another DIY tiny, sort of 50 or 100 meters from me as well.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, there's the landlords, the other tiny, me. Um, and the story, this just all happened last week actually, that the landlord's got a letter in the mail sort of saying, well, what's going on here? And straight away a follow-up letter sort of it came at the same time. Almost like one had been posted like a month ago, but for whatever reason didn't come. And a follow-up one that was much more I guess, sternly written that said, no, you need to cease all activities at the moment. And it had like drone shots of the two tinies, like circling them, being like, no, what's this? What's this doing here? You need to stop everything that you're doing and talk with us. So then the landlords called up council, and it seems that a neighbour's probably complained. Um, and we're thinking it's because on the property, the landlords have cleared like a massive area to plant their own orchard.
Mhm.
And it seems like the neighbor has seen the two tinies, has seen them clearing land, and has thought that maybe they're about to set up like a bunch of tinies
Oh,
and turn it into like a caravan park sort of thing. So that's our impression that the neighbors got a bit antsy that maybe it was going to become like, another 10 tiny houses. So I've
mm,
put in this complaint. And then council came around last week. But they didn't say too much to us. They've probably talked more to the landlords, but they sort of just came around, took a couple of photos of the house, and then said, "Okay, yep, that's all we need." So just sort of waiting at the moment to figure out if if we're even able to get building and planning permission, or sort of what's going to happen. Because in SA they passed like a bulletin. I think it was started this year, defining tiny houses. So a tiny house can't count as a caravan in SA now, which
oh,
has, yeah, they've said that caravans are a separate thing. Tiny houses aren't caravans, which sort of throws a spanner in the works of, building a tiny house to caravan spec is how I went about it. And how, Fred recommends so that you can, go through all the caravan sort of regulations and stuff. But
yeah, because that's the only legal category that it can fit in, as a
yeah,
something on wheels. Like it's the only option that it can possibly be legally approved. Like,
yeah,
like you can't make it pretend it's a dwelling if it's on wheels.
yeah. Well, that's what instead said that any tiny house, like, so they look a lot different to caravans, obviously. So they've said no, tiny houses are ancillary dwellings if they're on a property with another house. And therefore, as an ancillary dwelling, has to have all the building and planning approvals, which I don't even know if that's possible for a tiny house, like the way that they're structured with like lofts and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Um, but there are some tiny houses around that have council approvals, so just sort of waiting and seeing what council ends up saying.
Well, that's such a tricky way to start, Tyson. Like, you've just done
Yes.
all
Yeah.
this work, you've just moved the tiny house, you're settling in, and then straight away the pin gets, or the alarm bells go up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a like, at least I've been here a few months now, but it is a shame. And particularly like I said with the deck, like I was really looking forward to having a deck in summertime. Because probably can't share the view too much, but I've got a really nice view of the coast and the vineyards.
Oh,
And so having a deck for summertime would have been awesome, and also for a housewarming and things like that. That's
yeah.
that's the biggest thing I'm sad about is that I'm probably not going to have a deck this summer. But we will also see if I even get to stay here.
Yeah, that's such a shame. I mean, so many people manage to live without being, I don't know, noticed or called
Mm.
out or for whatever reason for a long time. And I'm really surprised that, well, in a way, I'm not surprised that South Australia has gone ahead and made their own rules over the top of federal vehicle laws because
Mm.
they've been extraordinarily tight with their planning laws, historically. So their planning department seems to be very stringent.
Yes.
Um, but like to say that something that is built to vehicle specifications, which is a federal law, is not considered a vehicle sounds like, um, well, from my perspective, a bit of overreach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think how they're trying to justify it is that like, oh well, tiny houses end up on bricks or jack stands or whatever, and then as soon as you do that is when, well, they've said that even for caravans, I think as well. As soon as the caravan's somehow attached to the land, they're also classifying it as an ancillary dwelling. Um, so I think maybe that's how they're trying to justify it, but it is quite annoying because then it's like, where do tiny houses stand? There's nowhere. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's really disappointing.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope that you either get allowed. I mean, it'd be really nice if they give you a pathway forward for like how you can tick whatever boxes that they need.
Mm.
It'd be really nice if they could provide that. Um, Otherwise, come to Victoria. Come and live in Castlemaine. We have a circus. You can work there.
Circus, there we go. Yeah, so fingers crossed, it all goes well. But we'll see. Give you an update in a few months.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to know how it goes. Yeah. All right. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I was going to ask you about your challenges. So you've been talking about council. Are there any other things in that category that you want to talk about? Like, did you get injured or anything like that?
Um, During the build, I feel like mm, one of the big challenges early on was it was the summer I started building it was abnormally wet. Like it just rained the entire summer. And then the storage boxes in
Storage
the
boxes.
yeah, and they just kept getting full of water. So I didn't want to put a hole in them and a plug, so I just kept having to drain those with water, and they ended up rusting a little bit. But also just there was so much rain that my floor joists got pretty like waterlogged too. As I
Mm.
was building that. And then just because of the wild weather, it was like bucketing and I was working outside for everything, like all my timber cutting and everything was outside. And it wasn't even just like light sprinkles, just bucketing just nearly every day for months. Such a weird summer, but that really slowed down the start of the whole build and like even just trying to get it waterproof. I think one of the days is because I followed your guys' construction method with the plywood and then painting it on the outside.
Mm, mm.
And then one of the days, the plywood's up, start painting it, and then just rain, like massive storm, washes all the paint off the outside.
Oh, no.
Like, sure, it was only a few hours work, so I just had to redo it after. But that was sort of the story of that summer building. It was just constant rain, like, putting the roof up and everything was just miserable because, raining the whole time. Um,
Oh.
so it was really nice once I got it waterproof and then the rain kind of stopped as, as
Terrific.
you expect.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the other big challenge I was going to mention is made a very rookie mistake at the start is I leveled the trailer and started doing the floor joists, but I didn't realize that the trailer legs might settle into the earth a little bit. So leveled it all, started doing the joist, put all the joists down, and then I go to check the floor joist for level, and they're like the whole thing's like on an angle. And again, with not much experience, I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe the trailer's at a level of whack, or maybe my floor joist is somehow. But so then I just started like planing all of them down to get them level. And I didn't realize till I was like halfway through like planing them that it was just the trailer had shifted out of level in the earth again. So I ended up planing out a fair bit of material from the floor joists because it sloped from one side to the other. Um, I didn't end up going back and fixing it, but that was sort of weighing on my mind the whole time is that I've lost, a fair bit of material from the floor joist because I've planed away at it. So that'd be a tip to anyone at their tiny house. I saw someone must have mentioned it in the Facebook group um, at some point after I like searched up and they're like, oh yeah, make sure you double check your trailer for level after a couple of weeks because it can settle into the earth. Like, okay.
That's what happened. It would have just tilted a little bit, so then you were planing off the bit that was just a bit high.
Yes.
Oh, dude. Tricky. There's so many factors to think of, aren't there?
Yeah. Yeah. So then
You did all the right thing. You were checking. You were even checking, is it still level? Like, you would have been better to not check at that point because you would have just built flat.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, what a
So
pain. Yeah.
that was one I was going to mention. Um, yeah, although it was just water, just had like leaks and stuff. But it wasn't actually leaks in the roof or anything. It was just because like I hadn't like fully done all the edges for cladding. Like I'd done, the roof cladding and then the wall cladding, but I hadn't done like the fascia,
Fascia?
well, the equivalent of a fascia.
Okay.
And then there was water coming in that way. And it seemed like a lot. And so for a while, I was stressing whether there was a leak on the roof. But then it turned out it was just the rain being driven in sideways because I hadn't been covered yet. Um, yeah, they were probably some of the big ones. I'm sure there's plenty more challenges came across, but they're the ones I can think of for now.
Yeah, good on you. Tell me about your cladding choice. Like, I want to hear about your paint because I love your paint.
On the inside,
Yeah.
yeah. um, Cladding on the outside. Well, like I said, I did the brace ply all around the house, and then painted it all, sealed all the gaps, and then painted it. And then I remember I was deliberating for a fair while on how to give the cladding a bit of an air gap, because that's in some of the building code stuff that you're supposed to have that air gap there. Particularly if you don't have an eave, which tiny houses can't have an eave,
Yeah.
unless you're going to go over the road limit normally. So then I was deliberating for a fair while on how to have an air gap. I found a product that essentially looked like core flute. I think it was like a New Zealand product or something, but it was too expensive to order enough of it. So I just ended up using core flute on the outside to give like a little 5 mil air gap. So I ran core flute like horizontally around the house and then put the cladding on top of the core flute, like screwed into the timber frame. So then, so I've got black, get the profile, but it's one of the corrugated sort of trapezoid looking claddings around the outside running vertically. So that's just, the whole way around the house. And then the roof is a lighter color. But my choice with the black is I grew up in Darwin, so I grew up in a fair bit of heat and I'm used to the heat. And then in Adelaide, like over winters and stuff, I really don't like the cold. So I built the house black to absorb as much heat as I could in winter. So it is actually pretty toasty in winter. It doesn't get too cold during the day, which I really like. But then, the roof obviously went lighter colored because, sun's overhead in summer. But so went the metal cladding, core flute underneath.
Yeah. Nice innovation. It'll be good to see how that holds up over time, like just to see how you find it.
Yeah.
And tell me about your paint on the inside. What?
So inside walls, I use the Folcata ply. So the 9 mil Folcata ply to save on weight. I wanted to use chip rock, but it just ended up it's too heavy. And the 9 mil ply would probably be a little bit stronger anyway for screwing into. So I used the Folcata on the inside, and then it took months to do my internal painting because I used the plywood and like put it up, sanded it down, and then I used like wood grain filler to essentially work as like a skin coat over the plywood to get rid of the plywood grain. So then I did a coat of wood grain filler and gap filler as well for the joins. So coated that over the whole thing and then sanded it all down. And then I've got lime wash paint is my final layer. But to be able to do lime wash on the final layer, you have to do all of these priming layers. So it's got like 3 coats of like actual base coat paint to seal the wood in, with sanding in there. And then the lime wash has its own prep coat. So it's got a couple of coats of that prep coat. And then a couple of coats of lime wash, which is quite time consuming, like doing the clouds and whatnot. But I'm very happy with how the lime wash looks. Like it catches the light really well and it gives a really nice texture and feel to the space.
Yeah.
So 4 months, probably it was close to 4 months work just doing the walls.
Oh my goodness.
It's
So
just
much, isn't it?
because mostly by myself, so it's like so much, sanding and painting, and but worth it, I think.
I think so too. It looks very refined, like all the stuff that you've done to join all the gaps and everything, it really smooths out that visual, like the overall look of it so that it looks really clear and neat and sort of it really looks like you must have started with a plaster. So it's very,
Yeah.
very smooth. And what was the color? Did you use bow work or
Yeah, bow work. I think,
Yeah.
vanilla is the one I ended up with. I did so
Okay.
many styles. It's like I probably tried 20 to 30 colors because I just kept trying to find just the right color, and it looks so different in different lights too. So
Yeah.
try to do like test samples, and you hold it in one light, it looks completely different to another light.
Yeah.
But then yeah, ended up with the vanilla. The only other thing with like the walls and stuff is I didn't did what you call um, the returns to the windows rather than having like not called architraves, but reveals around the window. It's just done like the plywood the whole way to the window.
Yep.
So it sort of just continues that paint the whole way, which I really like how that keeps it like doesn't draw your eye too much to the edges of and the borders of windows.
No, you're right. It's a really clean finish.
Yeah, so I'm happy I did that. But again, that made life hard trying to do all that properly and do the edges and whatnot. That's probably the story of my build is that I did a lot of things like the long and hard way, just for like small results. But I am happy with those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's much more of a custom build,
Yeah,
kind of a problem to have, isn't it? It's like this because of this aesthetic outcome, and I'm
yeah.
gonna do the work. Did you weigh it at all when you were building it? Did you have any means of managing the weight?
Um, I kept track of everything I put in, so I do it that way. I haven't actually weighed it on scale since building it,
Okay.
just because I didn't want to do an extra trip, like towing it.
Yeah.
And I know you can get roadside scales or something like that, but yeah, I didn't bother. But yeah, I kept track of all the weight I think pretty accurately, and I think
Mhm.
it's 4.2, I believe.
Oh, well
So
done.
yeah, at first, like starting the build, I knew everyone talks about weight being such a big issue, but I mean, yeah, for whatever reason, it didn't end up weighing a ridiculous amount. Like I got pretty much halfway through the build, and I realized that like I wasn't even going to be super close to the weight limit. Um, so yeah, that made the last part of the build quite nice. I didn't have to stress too much about that. And yeah, I still got like my cabinetry weighs a heap because I did bamboo cabinetry.
Oh, does that
Um,
weigh more?
yeah, yeah, you'd think it's lighter, but it's actually like a hardwood, so it's yeah, it's quite heavy. So I've got
Mm.
like 700 kilos of cabinetry in here.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean that includes the couch. I took the couch out to move it, but my couch is like 100 and something kilos of just like bamboo plywood. Um, so yeah, the plywood weighed a fair bit in the cabinetry. I think everything else. I think it was just like I did the 70 by 35 framing, and the Folcata ply for the walls. I think probably helped a fair bit,
Yeah.
saving on weight. Um, But yeah, it didn't end up being super, super close. And I've got floating floors as well that are probably 300 kilos.
Yep.
Um,
Takes a lot of structural stuff to get those floors managed. Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, no, weight, not too bad, I don't think. Maybe if I put it on the scale, maybe I've completely missed something in the build, but
You might get a rude shock. No, I think that sounds on track with what I hear when people are building with the unified construction method, with that lightweight timber framing and the National Construction Code adds in a lot because it doesn't never has to measure weight, of course. So like you're not building houses and then measuring their weight and going, it's a bit heavy. You know,
yeah,
so there's lots about what the National Construction Code is put together from that you can pick and choose to remove something so that you can make it a lighter weight structure. So pulling out some of those unnecessary bits and adding in strength in different ways. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty confident that most people can, when they're following the unified construction method, can get an off-grid tiny house that's 8 meters long and 2 lofts, full bathroom, full kitchen under the 4.5 ton. But then I don't know how, like, if somebody's going to use a different building method, then 8 meters can be too much. So even 7.2 meters can be too heavy. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's really, it's your success that you managed to do it within 4.5. It's because you made good decisions all the way along about your building materials and the frequency of your placements and all that sort of stuff.
Mm, yeah.
How did you find the land that you're now on?
Um, I did a fair bit of looking around, but it was mainly through Facebook community groups.
Oh, yeah.
So just sort of putting ads up in community groups. I sort of found the regions of Adelaide that, well, I was looking for Adelaide Hills, very pretty up here in the hills.
Mm.
So I just found the regions that I would like to live in that were sort of close enough to my work and whatnot. And then yeah, just put up some ads being like, hey, I'm Tyson. Some photos of my tiny house. This is my tiny house. I'm hoping to, move to some land, looking for these sorts of things, this amount of rent. Um, and then yeah, just had some different people reach out, and I looked at a few different spots around the place, and just sort of kept looking until I found one that sort of, I don't know, yeah, really clicked for me. And then yeah, sort of found this one through the same way. Maybe this one was the landlord put up an ad doing the opposite, saying that they were looking for a tiny house. And the other couple on the property, they got in first. But then the landlords decided, oh, actually, no, maybe we'll do a second one as well.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
luckily for me, then, yeah, met with them and came up here and sussed it all out. And yeah, it sort of turned out pretty well for me. It's on like a main expressway into Adelaide. It's pretty close to the expressway, so I'm not even that far of a drive away from Adelaide, and yet I still get the hills and all that sort of more quiet vibe.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. It's nice to be close but feel far.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, what's it like living in it? I mean, you've been in it for a couple of months now. So how does it feel?
Um. Yeah. Honestly, perfect. Like exactly how I wanted it to. It was obviously very surreal at first. Just sort of like, oh, like yeah, it's spent 2 and a bit years, and this was like my construction site. And then all of a sudden in your head, it's turned into your home and your living space. So that was very surreal for a good few weeks to a month. But then I settled in like pretty quick. Sort of it just turned into normal. And yeah, I honestly thought there was going to be more gripes, more things that sort of stuck out to me of like, oh, I should have done that differently, or like things like that. I thought there would be more of those, but there's been next to none.
Wow.
And it's just, and I've, yeah, really happy with that. Um, so yeah, it just feels like home now. And it's so nice just coming back and enjoying the space that I've worked on for quite a while. And um, yeah, like even say the kitchen, I put a lot of time into trying to design the kitchen
Mm.
because I do really enjoy cooking. And so I spent all this time planning the kitchen and like, trying to make sure it would be a functional space and whatnot. And yeah, it's turned out perfectly that my kitchen sort of doubles as like a table, but it's all very open, so it doesn't feel too enclosed and, flows nicely to the living room. Um,
Right.
yeah, no, couldn't be better, really.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so great. I'm so pleased to hear it. Like, it sounds like you put so much consideration into how you move through the space and like the things that are important to you and your ergonomic, ease.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're just living with the benefit of all that design planning and all that personalization.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So is there anything that you would want to do differently? I mean, it sounds like you're really happy with it. So I guess I'm just asking for that kind of reflection. Like, what would you tell people who are starting out, um, or midway through? What do you wish you knew?
I feel like it took that a little bit with the trailer at the start. Sort of, that leveling, making sure you
Yes.
check the trailer.
Yeah. It
Um,
settles. It settles. The trailer settles everybody.
um, wishing it changed. isn't a lot that I would change about it. It was more so just like I would do some things and I'd realize after I've just made my life a little bit harder by just doing like these small things. So I wouldn't say it's anything I could really give advice to other people about, but just like small ways that I did framing that then made things harder later on. So like the way I framed up, oh, the windows actually is probably a decent point to make. So following the unified construction method, there's no trimmers to windows, which is a good way to save on weight. But I realized pretty quickly when I was doing the cladding and the flashings that the trimmers being there is a good thing because then you've got more to screw to. Because if you don't have the extra piece of timber as a trimmer, you're only aiming for like a 35 mil wide strip of timber on either side of the window. And the way I did my flashings, at least, is it was really awkward to try and hit that piece of timber with the screws for the flashings. Whereas if I had the extra trimmer, I would have had a bit wider to aim for and it would have been a lot easier.
Mm.
So that is something that I would have done differently. And it probably only would have added like 20 kilos or something, or maybe closer to 40, but not a ridiculous amount of weight. And
Yeah,
it would have made my life a lot easier
yeah,
having
sure.
those to aim for. So I think depending on how you would do your cladding and your flashings, having trimmers is, yeah, I think probably a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, having more meat to aim for and
Mm,
less, of a fine tolerance to
yes.
work within. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I can think of is just, I think throughout the build at different times, I was a bit maybe blasé with like levels, like having things like as level as possible.
Oh, okay.
Um, so like I didn't have things that were like way off, but it was just times where it was like, oh yeah, that's probably good enough. And then coming back to it later, it'd be like, why is there like a 10 mil difference from the bottom to the top? It's like, ah, shit, I should have been a bit more precise with that one. But that was also kind of a learning experience for me that I'm very much a perfectionist at heart. And starting the build, I was very meticulous with everything. I was really slow and tried to make everything perfect. And that slowed the whole build down a lot.
Mm.
So, like, pretty early on, I had to just make a decision. I was like, okay, I'm not going to get everything perfect. I am just going to have to sort of do my best and not fret too much about things not being 100%.
Mm.
So, in some ways, I'm happy that I didn't just try and do everything perfect. But then some of those things did come back to bite me. Um,
Yeah, and that's so much a learning process, isn't it? Like, because you're realizing partway through, oh, I have to relax my standards in order to progress this.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it might have been a 5-year build,
Yes.
and and that might have just been demoralizing.
Yeah.
It's the sort of time when it's just like, no, it's too much. So you did a really, self-conscious, reflective thing of going like, okay, I'm going to have to change the way I approach this
Mhm.
from a really sincere place so that you can actually get it done.
Get
But
it.
then you don't know what the compromises that you're making are down the line. And so I'm sure that like even somebody listening to this will go like, oh, okay, so I can relax my standards, but not this bit. So
Yeah.
just make sure everything's really plumb and level. That's will be so much easier for later on when you have to fit square things into other squares.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, yeah. I just think, good on you, because like, it's really hard to change the way you approach a project, and just even hearing that you made a tack change on that, that takes, inner agility, I think. So good on you.
But yeah, no, I think as you said that, yeah, making sure things are plumb is probably not something to compromise on.
No, sure. Trailer's level, things go up and down. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other parting wisdom? Um, I don't know. For me, it was just yeah, it was just a mindset thing of just being like, I can figure it out. It might take a long time. I might make some mistakes, that sort of thing. But I feel like if you've got that determined sort of attitude or mindset that like, whatever mistake you might make, you'll find a way to figure it out
Mm.
afterwards. And it's like, sure, it might cost you. a bit or, take a few extra months and those sorts of things. But um, yeah, I feel like it's just you stick it out and you'll find a way to to solve whatever issue you might have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I think that was just how everything happened. It was just like, you start doing something and you run into this little issue and you're like, okay, right, how am I gonna sort this out? And
Mm.
sometimes it was like, I know, say with my trailer lights, I started working on them like a couple of years ago, like right after I finished the cladding. Um, but then I was, silly enough, I was using the wrong size wire, so it wasn't crimping properly in all the terminals. And so all the
Mm.
terminals were pulling apart. And I just kind
Oh.
of spat the dummy and I was like, "Oh, I'm not doing this right now." So then I didn't come back to it until like the week before I had to move the house. So it was like a year and a half where I just left the trailer lights. 'Cause, like, no, I'll come back and figure out why those aren't working later on. And, I did that a bunch of different times with things that I had enough different things to work on that when I'd get stuck on one thing, I would often just like leave that thing, start, trying to figure out how I want to solve it and work on something else
Mm.
until I come up with a good idea or I can't work on anything else. And then it's like, okay, it's time to just bite the bullet
Have
and
to.
do
Yeah.
something. um, so there was definitely lots of those sorts of things throughout. So, I mean, yeah, having that ability to go work on something else and then just mull it over and come back when you're ready. I think, yeah, that definitely helped a fair bit.
Yeah, and just being relaxed about it, going like, "Oh, well, it's okay to put things in the too hard basket and
Yeah.
come back to them later," and you might come across an answer in your life, or you might meet the right person who can, decode the wiring system for you in some way or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like, especially once it's waterproof, like once you've got it all, like, at that lockup sort of stage.
And you're not
Um,
experiencing, like, a freak monsoon season in an
yeah.
essential desert, like,
Yeah.
that's such
Yeah.
bad timing.
Yeah, I think the following summer was dry as, and then we ended up in a mini drought for a couple of years.
Right.
But yeah, no, I feel like once you get it to the lockup stage, you can kind of take your foot off the accelerator a bit. Um,
Mm.
so I feel like, yeah, having all the planning and knowledge you need to get it all locked up and dried in, and then yeah, just sort of taking things as they come.
Yeah. Right. Congratulations, Tyson. It's a total triumph. I love your tiny house.
Thank you. And thank you to, I guess, you and Fred as well. I feel like, yeah, your online course definitely helped like get it all started. Like the yeah, the feeling before you start, I very vividly remember it being like, okay, this is something I want to do. I'm sure I'll figure it out. But also like, where do I start?
Mm.
And I feel like your course has, it doesn't give you all the answers, but gives you just enough to start feeling confident that, like, okay, I think I know what's going on. I still have to work out so many other things, but at least I've got enough of a starting point to be like, okay, yeah, I can work this out, and go from there. So yeah, I would say that that definitely helped me from the beginning. Um, yeah, and then also I guess like we haven't talked about the trailer much.
Yeah, talk about the trailer.
But I'd say like having your guys' trailer and those, I forget what you call them, the tabs
Oh,
that
the
stick out.
wall tie downs and the floor joist tie downs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they definitely help me feel more confident with my framing being attached to the trailer. Particularly the stud wall tie downs, having that like really long bit of metal that you can like bolt into. That definitely helped me feel confident that the frame wasn't going to just like fall off the trailer. Um,
Totally.
yeah, so they are a bit of a pain to try and work around. Like I will say, trying to cut the holes to slot over it was a bit finicky, but once it was on, it was like, okay, yeah, sweet. Like that's not going anywhere. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
if
it's fully integrated.
like if the house is falling over, the trailer's coming with it. It's not like they just pivot off the top of it.
Sure.
Um, um, but yeah, and then Yeah, no, okay, that was definitely a good thing to have the confidence in when I was building it. Because I think like one of your biggest fears building a tiny house is that you get it all done in one spot, and then when it's time to move it, it's like, oh, is it going to stay together? Like, or is it just going to vibrate itself apart? Um, so yeah, having a bit of that confidence there definitely helped. But it didn't make the move any less scary. Um,
For sure, for
but I
sure.
think everyone would probably have that same sort of story there that, moving day is just so stressful.
It is. You've spent years and years building something and then it moves and you have to trust the process and you have to trust the person driving it and you drive behind your baby on the road.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrifying, but also very cool seeing it move. Like, I don't know, in my head, it was like, it's, a place, like the house becomes part of the place. And then seeing the same house in a different place afterwards, or even just on the road, is very strange. But it's like, oh, this is all the same stuff, but it's somewhere different now.
Totally. It's bizarre, and you probably find that too over the years as you move house, you'll be like, "Oh, that's so weird, like, this is where the light comes in now," or like, I look out and my relationship to the boundary of the property or my relationship to the view or whatever, it's all shifts. So it can
Mm.
feel like being like you've moved house and you have moved house, but just a bizarre kind of something that feels so solid, and then it's just transported to a different location, and then it
Yeah.
builds its own relationship with that location. It's weird. Thanks, Tyson.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah. It's been a bit of fun. I always love talking about my tiny house. I think I yap a lot of people's ear off about it. So it's unique on a podcast just about tiny houses.
If you're interested in building or buying a tiny house on wheels, I highly recommend taking our online course, which is called How to Build a Tiny House, the Australian online course, and you can find it at tinyhouseuniversity.com.au. Hundreds of people have used it to build a successful tiny house on wheels, and you can too. We also offer weekend workshops throughout the year where you get to sit for a whole weekend in a classroom environment and thrash out the problems of tiny house building. You'll be taught all of the basics, plus a whole bunch of new material about vapor permeable membranes and everything that we've learnt from passive house experiences for tiny house living to get the best thermal performance and humidity management in your tiny house. And you'll also get the benefit of hearing other people ask their questions and all of the discussion that really helps people thrash out their thoughts about their tiny house building project. With the weekend workshop, you also get the online course for free. So that's a really awesome set of ongoing notes that you can use throughout the period of time that you're building your house. So pop over to fredstinyhouses.com.au/education to find out more about those education offerings. You can follow Fred's Tiny Houses on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Pinterest. You can also reach out to us and just write to info@fredstinyhouses.com.au, and that email comes to me and I'll write back. If you're ready to buy a Fred's Tiny House trailer, then pop over to our website, fredstinyhouses.com.au/shop, and peruse through our wide range of tiny house trailers. We only build tiny house trailers. We don't build any type of other trailer. We specifically design all of our trailers with your house in mind. So everything that you need to think about for a tiny house build is considered inside a tiny house trailer design from Fred's Tiny Houses. So check that out at fredstinyhouses.com.au/shop. Please share these episodes with people that you know and love who are interested in tiny house builds. The more people who know about it, the better. Give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube and on Google and on Facebook and all the places. We love 5-star reviews. You'll see heaps of people have already done it, and we're really welcoming more because we want more and more people to build successful tiny house builds across Australia. Thanks heaps. Stick around next week for season 3 of Candid Tiny House, where you'll meet Harrison and Alex, a young couple who DIY built their tiny house in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales. They've done a beautiful job, and it's really worth sticking around and hearing their honest reflections on what it was like for them to build a tiny house on wheels by themselves. If you've been listening to the podcast and you'd also like to see the tiny houses that we're talking about, you can actually watch the interviews on YouTube, where we get to see all of the pictures of their tiny house, the outcome, as well as the build. And it really helps to illustrate the conversation that we're having. So feel free to pop over to YouTube and you can subscribe by looking up Brett's Tiny Houses and checking out the playlist of Candid Tiny House.